Hello, people of YouTube, people of internet, and people of world. It is I, the Classic Juan, coming to you from inside of my mobile studio with my good friend, Mega Man. So the last time we talked, last week, I ended our discussion by telling you all that you were probably giving your kids ADHD. And so I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that. And please excuse me if this topic or this video gets a little too real. And so before I get into the meat of it all, let's rewind a little bit. So back in the day, games were built very differently, and there was very different game styles that were enjoyed, and there was very different genres of games that were appreciated. And so in looking at the recent top games per system, we look at like the Xbox One. And so the top 25 of the top 25 games for the Xbox One, there are 3 which are not first-person shooters. Those 3 include Final Fantasy, Rocket League, and Forza. And so those 3 games are non-first-person shooters. Every other game, that's 22 games of the top 25 games for the Xbox One, are first-person shooters. Now, you look at, say, the Nintendo, the NES, and you look at let's just look at the top 5 games for the NES. The top 5 games of all time for the NES include, and this is not in any specific order, include Super Mario Bros. 3, Final Fantasy, Metroid, Mega Man, and Castlevania. So you look at those games, and you get maybe, well, we could probably make the argument that 3 of those are it's equivalent to a first-person shooter in that they're action shooters in Castlevania, in Mega Man, and in Metroid. And so, taking that into consideration, you can see the stark differences in those games. Number one, those classic games don't have mindless multiplayer shoot-'em-ups like, let's say, Halo or Modern Warfare or any shooter has that online multiplayer where you're just running around shooting people. There's no thought to that. I guess there could be made an argument for that, but there's just not a lot of premise behind that. Shoot the other guy is really the goal, and then skill sets in after that. But you don't have that. You don't have that. And so what you do have in these new games is quick thinking and hyper stimulation, and that is where the problem lies. The problem lies in hyper stimulation. All of the newer games that are out currently cause you to have to think quickly and act quickly, because that's how fast the game is processing. And if you don't act quickly or process quickly or shoot quickly, react quickly, then you die. And so you start exposing your kid, because you bought your kid an Xbox One when he was 7 years old. You start to expose your kid to this hyper stimulation at such a young age. Their mind adapts. Their mind says, hey, we need to process quicker, faster, and we need to do it now. And so the kid then adapts to that. Well, now you have this kid that's adapted to hyper stimulation and hyper reflexes, and then you stick him in a school setting where the teacher isn't hyper stimulating him, isn't forcing him to work quickly or think quickly, and all of a sudden that kid is bored. That kid is bored, he's understimulated, and so he allows his mind to wander and he tries to do other things. And then there we have the problem, ADHD. And so how do we fix that? How do we prevent that from happening? Well, the answer is simple. Look to the nostalgia generation. Look at how ADHD mildly could have been avoided from gaming. I'm not saying that all ADHD problems are caused by gaming. It's also obviously a multifaceted problem, but I'm pretty sure that gaming and being hyperstimulated through gaming is increasing that risk. I don't have any particular data to suggest that that's happening, but just on observation, I feel like that's probably a suitable conclusion that can be made. Increased risk. So how do we prevent that? Well, classic gaming is the answer for the gaming ADHD problem. You need to start your kids gaming old school. The reason that I say that is I recently went to the Austin Toy Museum and they had Street Fighter there, and I was playing that old school Street Fighter game, and I realized something. That game is super slow. The amount of time that it takes to the characters to move, the speed at which they move at, the speed at which they respond to the buttons that you push, the game, in comparison to the newer Street Fighter games, is significantly slower. And so you look back on all of the old school games, and they are all slower because the processing speeds were slower. And so the computers just weren't up to par to process as quickly as they do now. And that's not a problem. That's just a thing that's specific to classic gaming. And so that is our solution. We can then start our kids gaming old school Mega Man, Metroid, Tetris, and then you work them up. And by working them up, you allow their brain to grow with their body, increasing their reflex speed as they get older and require the increased speed. You don't need it when you're 7 years old to respond so quickly. You do when you're 21 and entering the workforce. So you got about 14 years to build your gaming skill from NES powered to Xbox powered, because you don't need a 7-year-old Xbox One powered. You need a 21-year-old Xbox One powered. You need a 7-year-old NES powered. And so that's where the differences in lie. And so that's how we can help. That's how we can help as parents to reduce ADHD risk for our kids. So classic gaming, once again, to the rescue, preventing your kids from having ADHD. Plus, classic gaming is fun. And it's more cost effective. Just so you know, an Xbox One will run you about $300 currently. A Super Nintendo, that like I just bought, $85. And it came with the controller, and it came with Super Mario World. $85, $300. I wonder what I'm gonna do. That's right, I'm gonna keep it classic. Till next time, guys.